Good morning, everyone. This is Sarah with Harrisburg Project, and today we are doing a brand new training that I have never done live before. So I'm hoping that for those of you that do have room and board students, that this will be helpful. I think the majority of the reason why in the past we really didn't have a live training on this is because there aren't a lot of room and board kids. So if you register for all trainings just because that's what you do and you are attending today, that doesn't mean that you will have room and board students. And some of you may have them one year and not the next. So not that it's not useful information, but I don't want anybody to panic when they go and look and see, I don't have any of these students, because that wouldn't be uncommon. If you have not attended a training with us before, you can ask questions during the session in your GoToWebinar questions pod. So if you can't see the GoToWebinar menu, look for an orange arrow. If you click on that, it should expand that and you'll see a questions pod. So you can just type those there if you have questions during the session. In addition, I uploaded your handout for today, so that PDF is also available in the GoToWebinar menu. I think that's all of the housekeeping. I'm kind of waiting for everybody to get logged in. We had a pretty decent registration amount and we're not quite there yet, but I don't want to wait too long, so. All right. Okay, well, it's 9:03, so we'll go ahead and get started. All right. So today we're going to talk about the 3437 application. So this is the application that has to be completed in order for a student to be eligible for room and board approvals and reimbursement. So this is something that you fill out through ISB. It's approved through ISB. It's not something that we handle at all, but I'll show you how you can see the data that is on that application in iStar. So it's read-only to everyone except for, ISB employees. So I can't edit it, you can't, but you'll be able to see the application. It will tell you all of the information you need to know about the child and their eligibility as far as their disabilities, their time lengths, their placement, those things, okay? We'll also talk about the 3443 application, iStar approvals, your residential claims, we'll do reports, and then how you can get support from us if you need to. So the 3437, again, this is your application to ISB for residential placement. It has to be at an ISB approved facility. So these are going to be like your therapeutic day schools, except these will be the residential pieces to those. So the therapeutic piece of the day part is your tuition, okay? So almost all of these students, if they reside there, they will also have a tuition record as well. So typically we're talking about 2 claims. So it can get easily confused, okay? So today we're just talking about residential, but again, majority of the time, they're gonna have a tuition claim to go with it also. All right, so these are submitted annually for ISB approval. So typically when we see a 3447, this is an approval period of 1 year from when the application is approved by ISB. So sometimes things may change and that may be different, but most of the time, this is done annually for these students. Okay, if you have questions about the application process or about the 3437, any of the data that you see on that, then you're going to need to call the special ed department. So that is one piece of this that we are not able to help you with. We cannot edit that. We cannot make any changes for you on that. They will have to do that. Now, once it's in iStar, of course, we are looking at that from other aspects. So as you're making your claims and all of those things, everything has to be intact here. So we are kind of air checking against what we find, but we're unable to make any changes to that, okay? So basically for everyone except ISB employees, this is going to be at a read-only level, and that includes us here at Harrisburg as well. So we can, if you have questions about what you see, we might be able to help you with what we can see, but we can't change anything or explain maybe why a date is what it is. If you see a mistake on that, we can't correct the mistake. All of those things would then go through ISB in the special ed department. Okay, so as far as having a 3437, what does that mean in iStar? So I think I've explained that you're going to be able to view the 3437 data. So you're going to go under approvals and claims, and you're going to have access to student residential. If you don't and you need it, then you're going to need to go through that request access process. If you don't remember how to do that and you need a little guidance, you can give us a call, send us an email, or you can look in our user guide. So a lot of you have had access to iStar for a really long time. You may not remember that process. We can help you through that. Just remember that someone else is going to have to approve that role for you. So residential approval is what we're looking at right now. So remember, again, this is read only. So you can see at the top, it's telling you this child has a 3437. I've had to blank out a lot of things on this because obviously I can't show real information, but it will tell you the disabilities, the residential placement, and the tuition placement. So these are going to have to match when we go over to the facts side. All right, so when we're in approvals and claims, this data is going to have to match. All right. As we go on down, what we're going to be looking for is a begin and end date. Most of the time, the rest of this data doesn't mean much to us when we're working with you guys. We're basically going for, what is the approved facility and what are the approved dates for the 3437 approval. Okay. So sometimes there are some notes down here as well that ISB users have made. So you may be able to look in there and see, like, if you talk to them about something or if they're working on something, they keep really good notes about the status of these applications or the status of the approval. So again, this is just going to be an informative page for you to look at if you have access. And again, we will air check against this, but we cannot edit this here. So it's read only to everyone except ISB. Okay, so on top of the residential approval, you also have to have an approval in the approvals and claims section. So I'm going to call this, for those of you, I know some of you are new, but we used to call the approval record that you work on all the time, we used to call it a fax record, okay? So I'm going to kind of bring that back because I want you to be sure to know the difference between the 3437 approval and what I'm going to call the fax approval, okay? So the private facility is going to have to match what's on that 3437, and in the claim type, you're going to put residential. So you have to have not only the 3437, but you're going to also have to have a fax approval record as well in iStar. This is where you're used to working. So you're going to have a corresponding approval record, okay? And so the rest of this is just typical to what you're used to filling out for private facility students. So it's going to be their IEP data. So nothing about this should look unfamiliar, except maybe this part. You may not be used to having a Fund B that is residential. So you may see King's Daughter School more than once. Make sure that you're matching up that facility number based on the number that was on the application on the 3437. They have to match. And then you're going to select the claim type will be residential. So we have different types of private facilities. Sometimes they are what we call a combo facility. So the 14920, it may have under that exact number, it may have the tuition and the residential rates. But sometimes there are split numbers where maybe you would have 14920 for residential and then 14921 for tuition. Regardless, you always have to have two fax approval records for residential kids. You're going to have a residential record, and then you're going to have another one that looks just like this, except it will be tuition. Okay? Okay, so for residential claims, right now, you won't be able to do much in the 23-24. So If you have not added a residential record for the 23-24 school year yet, you're going to have to call us and we're going to have to help you. But we've been reaching out on that. So I haven't quite got to the claims yet, but just to explain the school year overall for room and board is that these records begin September 1st and you do claims all the way through August 31st. So it's a different year than what we're used to. The typical school year we always think is August 1 through 7/31. This is different. So this approval and claim time period, again, it's September 1st through August 31st every year. So right now there is a possibility that you could still be making your August claim. Most of you have already done that from last school year, but then moving forward, you'll start with September in the 24-25. So what you need to be looking at is, first of all, have we been contacting you? Because what we have is a liability report where we know all the 3437s that exist, and that gives ISB, the Funding and Disbursements Department, an amount that they should be expending. And so they know that, you know, they have a deficit somewhere. So what we do is we run liability reports and we send emails and make calls on those to say, okay, we are showing that you should have had an August claim and you didn't. So please do that. Okay, so 23-24 should be in pretty good shape. But 24-25 started September 1st. Okay, so it's a little different than what we're used to. But again, there are not, I mean, when we're talking about residential, I mean, you know, you can imagine, I don't even remember the child count, what the child count is in Illinois anymore. I mean, we're over 250,000, something like that. This is like 400 kids in the whole state. So it's a very small collection in comparison, not that but it's important, don't get me wrong, but it's a small collection. So you may not be familiar with these time periods. So on these residential records, again, though, you can see this system will not let you put a begin date in the current year that's before September 1. Okay, it will give an error because it knows that that can't be before then. All right, these are not as common, but they're another type of residential placement, and it's for emergency placement. These would be at a non-approved facility. A lot of these facilities have been in Florida. You won't see these facilities anywhere. If you have, for some reason, you are forced to place a student through emergency placement at a non-approved facility, the form for that you would be filling out is a 3443. There's a process before you even get to this. You have to try to place the child. There's like a checklist of all these things that says before you can do this placement, you know, have you done A through whatever, you know, have you made this attempt or that? And, you know, I can't remember. It's been a long time since I've looked at it, but placing a student residentially at an emergency placement is not something you just get to do because, you know, they want to, or you want to, or whatever. There's a process to get to the 3443 application. But this is at a non-approved facility, and they call them non-approved facilities, but it is the way I see it. I don't think it can just be anywhere either. I don't really know how you get to be classified in this group of non-approved facilities. So regardless, this is something where you might be going through a due process. You know, there's going to be a lot of things leading up to an emergency placement, but because it is part of room and board, I didn't want to leave it out. So is it going to affect you personally? Maybe not. I don't even remember how many we have in the state, but it is just a handful, it seems like. So, but this is something that exists, and for questions about that approval, it's going to be the same. The 3443 is something that they manage, they create after you apply. You're able to view it in iStar just like the 3437. The only real difference that I notice is that it's 3443 instead of 3447. but the same rules apply as far as when does it begin, when does it end? So what's that time span, and what's the facility that's approved for residential and tuition? Those are the things that are important to us when we're looking at creating our iStar records and making the claim in the residential piece. Okay, so that's going to be your 3443. If you have had residential kids and you don't know what I'm talking about for 3443, that's not a bad thing. Again, it's not something that's common, but when it's on the screen, I felt like I need to say something about it. So, all right. So for those, the only real difference for this is it's going to have this checkbox that you'll see for emergency or student specific placement. So if you have a Fund B, you'll see this box. If you check that, then it's going to bring up the facilities that are considered non-approved that ISB has allowed placement at. And so it's the same idea though, still select the private facility and the claim type. So if you have a student that's on a 3443 and you're not seeing the facility in the drop down, first make sure you check the box. Then if you don't see it, you can give us a call. So the other thing with this is that sometimes when they're adding them, it's quite the process. So you may be ready to put your record in before ISB has been able to get it into the system, because they have to gather a lot of information about these facilities, even though they're non-approved. So it does sometimes take a minute for them to get that added. And remember, again, your begin date has to be 9/1 or after. It cannot be before for any residential, and that doesn't matter if it is emergency placement or a regular placement. The year starts September 1st. Okay, so for your residential claims, this is where it gets a little bit confusing, because these claims are not done on the fax side of iStar. You might see a claim, it's going to have an N next to it for status because it's not going to apply. That is not where we make the claim. All right, there is a special place in iStar under residential, and that is where you make these claims. So when do you file residential claims? Monthly. Do you have to? No, but you can, and you should when you can. So right now, you could go in and file your September claim because the month is over. So at the end of each month, you can go in and make the claim, but you have to make sure that the rates are set. So that's the problem that we have this time of year, is that not all of the rates have been set. So if you go in to make the claim and you see when you hit edit that there's $1, then just wait. Wait until that is populating the actual tuition rate. So it would be the daily rate. So that's what we want to see before you start filing. I have seen people go in and file at $1. Well, it's only going to let you file for 30 days. So then you have to go back and make an adjustment later. I would not recommend that. It's not going to do you any good. Okay. The deadline for room and board is November 1st. This is a statutory date. It's usually the same every year. The only time we change it is if, of course, we fall on those weekends like we do sometimes. Your estimated payments are, it's paid quarterly. It's not estimated. It is actually at a proration. So throughout the year, you're paid at a proration. At the end of the year, they look to see how much money they have and they pay you, basically chalk up the difference where they can. So most of the time that I have been with Harrisburg, this was paid at 100%. So I've been here since 2006, but last year there was a little proration on this, so it didn't end up being 100%. So there's no guarantee that you're going to get every penny back. Okay, this year it could be 100%, or it could be even a less proration. You just don't know from year to year. But what they do, again, they pay an estimated amount. So usually they'll say, okay, for our quarterly payments, we're going to pay you 70%, say. I don't know what the proration is this year, but we'll pay 70%. Then at the end of the year, chalk up the difference based on the final proration. Okay. So again, and here's our timeline, September through August. So it's due November 1 for records, September 1 through August 31st each year. So we are in that funky stage right now where we do have one final thing due in last school year, so 23-24, and that is room and board. So if you haven't made your August claim, then you need to make sure you're doing that, okay? All right. So how do you find your residential claims? So at the end of each month, when your rate is set, you're going to go to student residential and residential claims. And when you get down here, you should see your student, okay? You're going to have a little bit of information here. And to make your claim, you want to hit edit, all right? When you hit that, you should see a per diem rate. Now, I had to doctor this because a lot of them don't have rates right now. So I'll be honest, I had to doctor this. So I'm going to say when you come in, you should see the rate, okay? But you're going to type in the days. So for September, this student was there the whole time, the whole month. They lived there. So it's 30 days. You keep your rate and you're going to hit save. Okay? If you see $1, don't do this yet. All right? There's no rush. You've got a year. We like you to do it by the month, but you've got a year. All right. So once you save your rate and your days, then you're going to select the checkbox next to draft status. All right. So here in yellow, you're going to see a checkbox. You want to check that. And then you're going to click the submit checked button. And after that, your status will change from draft to pending payment. That's what you want to see. Okay. Once you see pending payment, your job is done for that month. Okay. So Shilpi, I hope that answered your question. If you see pending payment, you've done your part. Are the 3443 students Fund Q? They can be, but they are not always Fund Q. Sometimes they are Fund B. Okay? But just remember, I'm trying to keep this note everywhere. You cannot submit these until the rate has been set. You don't want to do that. So please don't go in and put 30 days in at $1 rate and save it. You're going to have to come back and fix that later. You're going to have to do an adjustment. It's just going to be a pain for you and double work. Okay? All right. So once you make your claim, if you see that you've made a mistake, then you can come in and go to this enter adjustments. All right. And for some reason, all my boxes got off on this. That's terrible. All right. This should be scooted over 24-25 because I do have to doctor a lot of things when I'm working on this. So we're going to say, okay, this was a mistake. They changed the per diem rate and it should have been $225, but you claimed at $220. All right. So your new claim, when you hit enter adjustments, you can type in, of course, the days would be the same. You may see a new per diem rate. Okay. So you're going to type in the adjustment. So you can see the previous claim was showing $6,000. The new claim was showing $6,750. All right. With a difference of $750. So just mark these two gray things out in your school year. I guess when it came to the PDF, it didn't like that. Okay. Actually, your PDF may look okay. It might just be this. So regardless, you get the idea. You can make one adjustment, only one. So if you're going to make the adjustment, make sure it's correct. Now, if you have happened to have filed a claim and you know immediately you made a mistake, give us a call and I can delete it here, okay? So you don't have to wait for it to get paid and make an adjustment. So if you put something in and you saved it and it will not let you take it out, just call us real quick and ask for us to delete the claim. Just say you made a mistake and we'll keep you from having to do an adjustment. I mean, don't make a habit of that, but we don't want you to have to go through waiting and getting paid the wrong amount and then dealing with all that and making the adjustment. So we will try to help you prevent an adjustment, but sometimes, you may not be able to do that. So, okay, as far as approval reports go, you have under application reports, your type is residential and your category is residential approvals. Okay, so you're going to see that you have a lot of different reports based on residential. We don't get a lot of questions about these. I think most people just go look at the claims grid and make sure that everything is pending or paid and you're good to go. Okay, so keep in mind that, and something I may not have really made clear is you're only going to see claims if that 3437 exists or the 3443. So if you go to your approvals and you hit search and it's blank, you're obviously not going to see any claims, okay? So the claims will be based on the existence and the dates on either one of those applications. So whether it's 3447 or 3443, okay? So the claims, you don't have to add claims or create claims or anything like that. You're just going to fill out what exists, okay? And again, it's going to be every month starting September 1st through August 31st, depending on when the child is there. So can you have kids that start this mid-year? Absolutely, okay? All right. You also have residential claims reports. Again, we don't get a lot of questions about these reports, and I don't know, maybe some of you don't know they exist really, or maybe you just don't need them. I think a lot of people, again, just use that grid and that's what they go by, and make sure that everything has either paid or pending and that they're good to go. So, all right, I will take any questions that any of you have. So what should you do at this point? Well, we're in the new year. So in 24-25, what I would go do if you have no clue is go look under your residential piece and go to approvals and just hit search. Do you have any 3437 or 3443 kids right now? I mean, a lot of the times you already know about these kids, but you may not. So if this is unfamiliar territory to you and you have no idea if you should be doing this or not, then that's the first place I would go. And if it's empty, then don't worry about it until you hear that you may have a residential child. What kinds of kids should you look at to, maybe wonder about? Well, private facility kids. If they go to the private facility for tuition, then they could also reside there and have room and board. Do all of them? Absolutely not. But at a minimum, that's where you would start, okay? All right, I will take any questions that you guys have. If you think of anything afterwards, please just let us know. We're happy to help. And if you do have 23-24 claims still existing, we will be reaching out to you, or Seth at ISB will be. So I'll wait a few minutes to see if you guys have any questions. Okay, looks like everybody's hanging up. So I will see you guys at the next session. Thank you so much for attending. I hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Bye-bye.